Let's bring in MSNBC senior correspondent Carol Leonnig, former FBI special agent in charge Michael Feinberg, and MSNBC legal analyst, former assistant Manhattan DA Catherine Christian. Carol, let's just back up for a minute because that questioning about Tom Homan was related directly to your exclusive reporting, or the reporting you broke related to an investigation of an alleged bribery scheme that involved Tom Homan prior to joining this Trump administration. Remind us of what you uncovered and what did you make of her answers?
Yeah, I found it fascinating. Here's what the reporting showed, and thanks for asking. It basically revealed that in 2024, the FBI kept hearing from basically a target of an investigation, a subject of an investigation, that he knew Tom Homan very well, and Tom Homan could get these agents who were posing undercover as business officials. He could get these businesses federal contracts in the new Trump administration in exchange for a lot of cash. They began investigating Homan, and in an undercover sting, they arranged to make basically a meeting where they'd strike this deal for future contracts. And Tom and Homan walked away with $50,000 in cash in a paper bag. And what was shocking about this was he was about to be named the border czar by Donald Trump. He eventually was after Trump's election. And when Trump appointees got into the Department of Justice and the FBI, the probe stalled, and Kash Patel actually got a briefing and decided it should all be shut down. What, again, is amazing is it's really unusual to have a case in which someone accepts a bag of cash in an undercover sting and that probe doesn't continue. Under Donald Trump's DOJ, it was put on ice and then completely shuttered.
That's right. And Senator Whitehouse asked, what happened to that $50,000? Did Tom Homan keep it? Did he put it on his tax filing? All questions that he says he wants answers to. He didn't get them in this hearing right now. Let me remind everybody that the list of DOJ controversies under Bondi has begun to stack up, and we are hearing questions about a number of them, from the top-down pressure from Trump about who to investigate. Of course, there's the entire Epstein saga. There have been mass layoffs rippling through the DOJ. There's been the takeover of D.C. law enforcement and threats to go into other cities, potential Hatch Act violations, again, the Homan investigation. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. Catherine, as you've been listening, one, what stands out and what are you hoping is still asked?
I just also want to clarify about that $50,000. That's government money. This was an undercover operation,
Good point.
Meaning the government provided it to Mr. Homan.
She should have those answers,
so
right?
One would hope that once he became part of the government, that he gave it back. But I just wanted to clarify that. This was not private money. This was the government money. So what I'm hoping for it, which is we're probably not going to get because these aren't really hearings, it's the AG has her points, the senators have their points. But we are getting information that there were 100 SARS, suspicious activity reports, such as, all banks, all financial institutions are required by law, the Department of Treasury, when they have a customer and they suspect that there's some suspicious activity, money laundering, elder fraud, or some financial fraud, they have to file that with the government. And what's supposed to happen is FBI, DEA, whatever, they investigate whether or not there actually is a crime. So that was a good question.
And that was on the Jeffrey Epstein
Yeah, so what
case.
happened? Did anyone, because these SARS were long before, obviously, he was prosecuted. Whatever happened to them? What's in those suspicious activity reports? What did these banks, these financial institutions, detect that he was doing? In terms of when they're talking about the Honorable Emil Bove, the OPR, the Office of Professional Responsibility, that's the arm of DOJ that investigates whenever there are allegations of ethical misconduct against prosecutors. Now, the Attorney General said that litigation is still pending, but he is now sitting and has a lifetime appointment.
And again, remind us what the allegations were.
There were several, from him directing his subordinates not to follow court orders, which is an ethical violation, not just for prosecutors, of all attorneys. And again, he's now has a lifetime appointment as a judge. There were also allegations from when he was an AUSA in the Southern District, Assistant United States Attorney. So according to the AG, that's still pending. But he's now has a lifetime appointment.
And so her answer was she's not going to discuss personnel matters. That's how she sort of got around answering direct questions about that. Michael, you were one of nearly 300 ex-DOJ employees who signed a letter just before this hearing to, quote, sound the alarm. And your letter reads in part, the Justice Department cannot uphold the rule of law when it carries out the president's retribution campaign and protects his allies, violates court orders, and evades due process requirements, directs attorneys to violate their ethical responsibilities, and fires its employees without notice or cause. As you're listening, are you hearing anything that changes your mind on Pam Bondi? Is there anything she could say that would restore your trust in the department under her leadership?
No, what I'm hearing has quite the opposite effect, frankly. I spent close to 2 decades in a component of the Department of Justice, which meant that I served under Republican attorney generals and I served under Democratic attorney generals. And there was never one with whom I agreed with all of the time, but I never doubted that they understood their duties to be to the country and not to the individual who had appointed them. You know, I think Bill Barr skirted the line a little bit, but at the end of the day, in my experience, he still understood he was a public servant, not the president's personal lawyer. Bondi doesn't seem to understand that. Todd Blanche, her deputy, does not seem to understand that. Emile Beauvais, when he was at the Department of Justice, certainly did not understand that. And as the director of the FBI, Kash Patel doesn't even attempt to understand it. What we are seeing is an entire perversion of how the Justice Department has operated really in the years since Watergate and a number of the congressional inquiries which followed. And this is going to make all Americans less safe and less secure if the prosecutorial and investigative apparatus of the United States is focused on shoring up support for the president and not apolitically identifying wrongdoers and criminals.
And that's just one piece of safety in this country and security. I mean, she's also faced questions related to grants that have been canceled that are supposed to help law enforcement keep people safe in communities and locals and state communities. She could, get questions about how assets and resources have been diverted or there have been some reassignments, with people in the intel community directing some of those people who'd be working on counterterrorism to now focus on immigration-related measures. What do you see at this point as the impact of those decisions that have been made, Michael?
National security leads and cases are going to fall between the cracks. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Do you think that's already happening?
100%. And the problem with national security investigations is that you don't know the effect of dropping the ball until years.
The authoritarian mirror. I think the scariest thing about Trump isn't what he did, it's what he proved. He proved how easy it is to break a country when you make people choose between truth and belonging. He proved that if you're loud enough, you can drown out facts. And he proved that millions will follow you not because they believe in you, but because you make them feel seen in their anger. He didn't invent cruelty, he just made it fashionable again. He made people proud of the worst parts of themselves. The insults, the lies, the mocking, it wasn't politics anymore. It was an identity. And when the system tried to stop him, the courts, the press, the voters, he turned their resistance into proof of persecution. That's what makes him dangerous. Not his power, but his ability to convince others they're powerless without him. He showed every aspiring strongman on earth that democracy doesn't need to be destroyed. It just needs to be mocked until it collapses on its own. And when that happens, we won't need another Trump, because we'll already be living in his aftermath. Maybe that's Trump's true legacy. Not his buildings, not his rallies, not his wealth, but the lesson he left behind. That democracy doesn't die in darkness. It dies in daylight, cheered on by people who think they're saving it. The next time the crowd chants for strength over truth or loyalty over law, they won't be cheering for Trump. They'll be cheering for the idea he left behind, that power is its own morality. And that's the danger that lingers.